Hello, everyone. According to the clock, it's showtime. I welcome you to the Professor Hamamoto YouTube channel. And it is me, yours truly, Professor Hamamoto, with an incredible talk today, if I may say so. I had a great time researching it. I learned a lot of specific information that is very useful to our understanding of contemporary politics. Again, my approach is to look at what is hidden in plain sight, and that's the popular culture. And one of the key aspects, of course, of the popular culture is the media. And I know that people default to looking at so-called new media, that is internet-related online enterprises, right? That's the Twitter, justifiably so, right? All the censorship that's going on there. But I'm going to go retro. I'm going to look at the magazines, albeit these are not print magazines. So it's a new term probably has to be created for that. This is non-print journalism. I don't even think Teen Vogue has a print version anymore. A lot of publications do. They have a print version that you subscribe to, and they have an online one as well, which is either free or parts of it are free. And it's, well, you know the model, right? I'm very interested in publishing because our friend and colleague, George Webb, and his cohorts and his larger network, of which many of you are members of. There's Corky Goss, Horse Sense 222, Smith Files, Mr. Potato Chips, not Mr. Potato Head, and so on, right? You're familiar with the publishing enterprise there, and it's a great source of hope for us in this otherwise beyond monopolistic media environment. And that's why we're coming up with the political types of behavior on a mass level. And it's starting at a very young age, earlier than even teens, right? Because we know about the Disney programming, so I'm not going to belabor that point. That's for the children, the kids who aren't really reading yet. But what about the tweeners and the teens who start reading, and that maybe they got kind of hooked by Harry Potter, but they've aged out of it, right? So there you have Teen Vogue, but there's a history there, as I suspected. I mean, it's more than a suspicion. It's an assumption that Teen Vogue doesn't materialize out of nowhere, out of the ether. It has a political history, and I'm going to share with you today a bit of that political history, but more important, I am going to be sharing with you today a lot of teen gossip, adult style teen gossip, right? I like the intrigue, right? And this is right. This is why I'm so much interested in women's culture, female culture, right? Because that's where really that's really, they're the best forensic analysts out there. And I don't say that just to be patronizing. That's just a fact. And there have been reams of articles and books that are written about why the difference, and so I'm not going to belabor that. We can talk about that later. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that for their own self-survival, they've had women in general, girls, have had to suss out very quickly what the social dynamics are around them. How do they fit into the group? How do they fit into a larger context? How are they going to be able to navigate? How are they going to be able to maneuver that? So in contrast to the old days, where they had to depend on their immediate family or their friends, their neighborhood, their barrio, whatever it is, their set, they can go to Teen Vogue in order to find out how to behave, how to respond, but they're not really getting advice. They're getting propaganda. They're being told, they're being instructed what they need to think. And if you dare depart from that instruction, you are going to be on the outside. No one wants to be there, right? Especially if you're a teenager, and maybe even more so if you're a teenage girl. I myself, I didn't really mind it. I enjoyed being on the outside because fewer people bother you when you're on the outside. Try it out. Check it out sometime. Just go outside. Be by yourself for an entire day. one of you mentioned that you had a blackout, for 5 days. Man, I envy you on electrical power. I'm looking forward for them to take down the grid. I really am. It doesn't bother me. I hope, the 5G, all of it just goes away for a while. Because, I have a pretty good stockpile of books and recordings, battery operated, of course, and acoustic instruments that I can amuse myself with, tuning forks, you name it. And I'm going to violate any sort of bans on my freedom of movement. I'm going to walk around maskless too. And there's nothing you can do about it because God, I just got this in the mail the other day. It's made in Arkansas. This is for fish. It's for fish, and it's also good for truck drivers, to check the inflation of their tires to make sure that they're solid and good for driving. But you can imagine it's probably very useful for other purposes, right? Hostile, people with hostile intent. By the way, if you're going to use it, put your fingers through here, grasp it like that. You don't want to put it around your hand because, it can be used against you. So anyway, this is what my ancestors used. The mainland Japanese of the Satsuma family, they were a large gangster outlet, daimyo. They went down to Okinawa and they took all their weapons away. And all they left them was with this farm implements. By the way, if you hook two of these together, you have a nunchaku, which is what my ancestors used to thresh the rice, to separate the wheat from the chaff. So they made that into an art. And this is why gun control in America is not going to work. You'll have to cut down all the hickory trees and more. And plus, you're going to also have to cut our hands off because these are also forms of resistance. But most of all, this is the lethal weapon, right? This is the one. Yeah, this is it. And that's probably why you're trying to break the blood-brain barrier and make us into a bunch of zombies and psychopaths. Anyway, let me get into this because I've been criticized for just going on in my introductions. So today, the teen Vogue is the focus. And from what I've been able to gather, it's been around for much longer than I thought. It's been around since 2003. So you have if 20 years is considered a generation, you have an entire generation that's already been socialized with teen Vogue. So those kids, those tweeners and teens who started reading that, and the subscriptions are dirt cheap. They're like loss leaders because they make their money on advertising, not on a subscription. That kind of pays the postal fees and all that, but it's really the advertising. Most of it coming from intelligence organizations masquerading as corporations, right? We know that. That's the MO. A lot of these companies are, in truth, owned by the national security apparatus. But that's another topic, related, but it's another topic. So Teen Vogue has been around for an entire generation, but I became aware of it I don't know, several years ago, but I've always, as I've mentioned before many times, I've always been interested in women's culture. I've always been interested in the magazines that were around the house that my mother read and my sisters, that was part of their female culture. So I read Cosmopolitan. I read all the teen magazines. I had my own, I was reading because, I wanted to be a writer. So I read one of these Condé Nast publications, which is part of the Teen Vogue is part of the Condé Nast empire. Vanity Fair. I had my own subscription, so I have a very good feel. I consider myself having grown up and having been socialized into this world of publishing, not only because I wanted to write professionally, but I found it inherently interesting. I would read all the girly columns about dating tips and makeup and boyfriend issues, and it was all his boyfriends back then, because remember, I grew up in a different era. Today it's boyfriend, girlfriend, or either or, right? Because Teen Vogue is one of the outlets where young girls or young ladies, let's just call them girls just for the sake of convenience, so I don't have to keep qualifying myself here. This is where girls learn about gender fluidity, all the the research and development that are done at the Research One institutions like the University of Chicago, which I'll get to in a moment, that trickles down, right? It becomes part of our sociocultural system. It becomes institutionalized, right? That's why when he was president, President Donald Trump had to issue that order saying, hey, no more of this racial sensitivity study in the federal departments. And of course, he was ignored, and then later he was cast out of office, right? By this same network of propagandists and quote unquote journalists, among whom the personnel at Vogue number, Vogue and Teen Vogue, which I'll get to in a moment. So the inculcation, the propagandization, the ideological conditioning starts at a young age. And we know that from the research institutions saying, oh, by the time you're, in the college, a lot of your politics and your belief system is, for most people, it's pretty much baked in, right? So you got to get them younger. In fact, they're even lowering the age range. There's probably going to be toddler Vogue pretty soon. Who knows, right? There's a market there. There's a business opportunity there for you at Condé Nast. You should hire me as a consultant because my mind is very much in tune with the New World Order shot callers. I've been studying you a lot. So I would be very, very useful to you because I know where you're coming from. Not really. I don't want the job. I don't want the gig. Give it to somebody else. There are plenty of takers. And those takers right now are primarily minority, quote unquote, minority women, primarily in the case of Teen Vogue, either African American, typically mixed race, like the woman I'm going to be talking about in a moment. But there are a lot of South Asians happening, and I'm going to try to explain why you're seeing a lot of Indians and Pakistani Americans, some of them coming from Britain, originally from Canada, because this is a British operation. I'll just tell you from the jump here. This is a British psychological operation, Teen Vogue. All right. So you don't tune out. I want you to stay with me on this. And I'm not just saying this. I have pretty good authority that this is what we're seeing here. See how it works? You have something so trivialized, trivial. It's like, oh, Teen Vogue, But no, it's very heavy, and it goes right at the core of political power, and it's right at the core of the type of behavior we're seeing amongst not just undergraduates and grad students, but people out in the streets, right? Unfortunately, what we're not getting is the full scope of behavior amongst these group of people, because you know what? The good news is that they're in the vast minority. They're just talking to themselves. But because these publications and media outlets are run by the Anglo-American elite, primarily British bankers, because this is a British psyop and total takeover here. Contrary to what Alex Jones, he is always blaming the Chicans, right? They're a tool in this, but make no mistake, this comes from the city of London, which is the financial center of the world, including China. All right. So let me share some of these. In fact, let me put this in academic terms for those of you who are of that bent, right? And then I'll unpack it. This is what I've come to conclude after doing this work up on Teen Vogue, only in, a couple days, right? Although I've been studying the larger phenomenon for years and years. This is quoting myself, right? You're getting original material here, okay? This is the Professor Hamamoto channel. This is not, the wanker channel, whoever it is, because it's a big echo chamber, right? This is nothing less, what we're seeing in Teen Vogue, is nothing less than a female-led necropolitical, necro means dead. This is part of the new, we used to call it New World Order. This is a female-led necropolitical empire that's built on the captive bodies. They used to be called slaves, right? But that would be considered racist, I guess. And besides, classical slavery is over. Now we're bio-slaves. This is a female-led necropolitical empire built on the captive bodies of the human species. That's you and me. Built on the captive bodies of the human species without distinction to race, ethnicity, nationality, gender, or social class. So in a sense, Teen Vogue is promoting an agenda that's anti-racist, anti-ethnic discrimination, anti-nationalism, especially jingoism, right? And gender fluid or gender nothingness. And of course, the destruction of all social class, right? And that's in keeping with the classic Leninist and perhaps a Maoist politics from where this is all coming from, right? This is definitely a Maoist social cultural revolution that's in play now. If Mao Zedong and his propagandists had more funds that he was already getting from the United States and his British backers, the finance people, he would have been putting his money into Teen Vogue in order to the Cultural Revolution and all these different programs would have been wouldn't have killed 40 million fellow Chinese people, maybe up to 80 million. The estimates vary wildly, right? And of course, and also even better, the transformation would be much more subtle because there won't be all these nasty corpses to deal with, and you're not going to be generating a lot of resentment amongst survivors and family members who saw you destroy their families and kill their loved ones. You can just kill their mentality and their beliefs before you can take over the system in your bloodless coup, your bloodless revolution, right? But they're going to, in the meantime, they're promising you, the Teen Vogue handlers, because the people who staff Teen Vogue, they don't run anything. Their faces, their cutouts, their pass-throughs, whatever you want to express. You know this already, so I don't have to really explain that. But they're promising you all these goodies if you go along with the program. But really, the end game is not just a obliteration of social class along classic Maoist terms, but it's a qualitatively new revolution in human affairs, which transfers humanity into post-humanity, right? And you've heard that argument before. That's where the AI and the quantum computing and all the other goodies come into play. But that's really the hidden agenda and the end game, that Teen Vogue is taking all the 13, 14, and 15-year-olds. Maybe they're a little bit older. They probably age out of it by the time they hit college, and they're reading Rolling Stone, right? Another that they hand them off, depending on the age group. It's another globalist publication that was taken over by the City of London bankers. So we have a necropolitical empire that these people are trying to build. It's anti-family and definitely anti-male. I mean, it doesn't even have, you don't even have to say anti-male, it's just there. It's implied. The program has been so effective and has been so thoroughly ingrained. It's implicit in the editorial content by now. So once again, we're having, the analogy is not perfect, but this is very similar to revolutionary France, right, which followed on the heel of the American Revolution. But revolutionary France, I mean, they had the slogan, right? It's liberty, equality, and fraternity, right? That's what they're going to fight for. And of course, if you've read your world history, your French history, you know that didn't come without the incredible loss of life, right? And I'm not just talking about Marie Antoinette getting beheaded. I'm talking about just everyday people like you and me. And not just from political violence, but also from starvation, privation, and just what later has become known as collateral damage. So do you ask yourself, do you really want to go in that direction? All right. I would say that most people don't, but you're not thinking along those lines, because you're going to get liberty. You're being promised equality. You're being promised fraternity. Now, the major difference, though, between the classic French revolutionary Jacobin approach to radical social political transformation. And yes, I know about the Illuminati and all the pop accounts about who was really behind the French Revolution, all that, the Knights Templar. I know that, so don't bother putting that in the comments. I've been looking at this. I've read Fire in the Eyes of Men, right, by who was that? He's a former librarian for the U.S. Congressional Librarian. I forgot his name, but it's Fire in the Eyes. It'll come to me in a moment, so don't bother putting that in the comments. Put something of your own thoughts in there, all right? That I appreciate, or your own original finds. That I can learn from. So instead of liberty, equality, and fraternity, there's a new twist on it. It's liberty, equality, and sorority. Yes, isn't that clever? Now, the good part, here's the good news, is that not all, we have to do a lot more, but as Napoleon Bonaparte himself said, something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing here, don't interrupt an enemy while it's in the process of destroying itself, right? So don't interrupt Teen Vogue. Don't interrupt the hallucinati of Silicon Valley, because they're all of a piece. And don't interrupt the current occupiers of Capitol Hill, Capitoline, right? It's all fenced in, right? It's all fenced in. The district is all fenced. Let them consume each other in this revolutionary process. Do not be tricked into the same type of psychology and tricks of January 6, 2021, right? We do our intelligence, we respond accordingly, and we acquaint ourselves with Old Hickory, Tire Thumper, and Fish Knocker, at least the mentality of it, and they'll consume themselves, right? These revolutionary movements always eat their own children. That's guaranteed, right? But we're not going to be complacent. All right, that's my prelude to this talk today. Now, who is the focal point right now of Teen Vogue? Well, I learned that it's a person only 27 years old. Man, she's a phenomenon. Jimi Hendrix was dead at age 27. Of course, he accomplished a lot more, and he's going to endure. But this person, age 20, she's probably 28 now. Her name is Alexi McCammond. Here's the controversy. She was hired to be the new editor of Teen Vogue at age 27. And before she even started the job, she was canned. She was fired because some of her own people, remember I told you the revolution needs her own staff members, dug up some tweets from Ms. or Mrs., I think she's married, Alexi McCammond. They ratted her out. They showed the tweets. And they said, wow, she's a racist herself. She's talking about equity and gender-free society and a society free of racism and white patriarchy, right? And especially in the age of Donald Trump. Yes, Peter Loney, I didn't mean to kill her, Mr. Yeah, so she's going to do that all for us, but she is, by the way, I read her tweets, and as an Asian American, I'm very flattered by them. She disparages Asians for being up all night and being really good at math and studying and being TAs and being in the university, and she's talking about her own swollen eyes, but why does she play it off on the Asians? She's not even her dad's a white man, okay, but she said the Asians got swollen eyes. She's the one's got the swollen eyes. You know why? Because she's too busy at organizational meetings at the local union hall, right? Because this is where the communist organizations mobilize in order to go into the university, right? That's really it's the unions, including teachers union, university, and schools of education all combine to take us here. And of course, You've got teen Vogue for the people who are not yet quite in college, because by the time they hit the University of Chicago, they'll know how to behave. They've been preconditioned. They won't have to sit around and go, oh, am I supposed to cheer? Am I supposed to be like Jigglypuff and say, I want my safe space? They'll already know. Okay, and I say University of Chicago because guess what? Ms. Alexi McCammond went to the University of Chicago. It used to be called Rockefeller University, and you know why. The Rockefellers don't like their names on their monuments, except for Rockefeller Center. That's one of the few, but it's a Rockefeller operation. And if you know University of Chicago, you know that there are certain dramatis persona who are involved with them, like in Michelle Obama. She was pulling down well into the six figures as some sort of administrative centerpiece for the law school, University of Chicago. And she was with some prominent law firm in Chi-Town, where she supposedly met Barack Hussein Obama, who has close ties with the University of Chicago, you know, on and on. You know the story. And I had a guest, by the way, a couple of weeks ago, Jeffrey Kuzmarov, who did an entire book on Barack Obama. And he's on the left, and he really dug into him really deep. So check out that interview if you're interested. So she comes out of that elite background. Now, I assumed that she came from a women's college, because that's even more elite than your places like Harvard or Yale or the University of Chicago or Stanford. And I gave a talk on another channel of mine. I encourage you to check it out. It's about Bennington College in Bennington, Vermont. And it's not on this channel. I have it on the playlist here, but you want to check out, I think it's on the Collegiate Gothic channel, my channel. Check it out. It's a short piece, 15 minutes or so, where I talk about, and I'm mentioning this because there's an occult aspect to this. There always is in social, including the French Revolution. There always is. When you just dig down a little bit, you'll find out. But Bennington College, which was founded in 1930, 31 or so, in this article that I was reading about the history of Bennington College itself, it's a women's college, right? Initially, now it's coeducational. At least that's what they claim. But they, at the closing of this essay, which I read verbatim for your benefit, because I want you to know the documents, going back to the 1930-31 period. Go back to the original sources, right? Because by the time we get it on YouTube or some wanker, who has an episode or a website that's supposedly expert on the New World Order, by the time it gets on there, it's already denatured and it's been repeated so many times that it's like the telephone game, right? It comes out all wacky. But go to the original source there. But from that original source, I found out that part of the foundational spirit of Bennington College was based on Thelema, right? And there is an abbey of Thelema in Italy that was established by none other than Aleister Crowley, right? And you know who he is, so I don't have to go into it. The Italian government kicked him out, by the way. And around the 30s through the 40s, even earlier than that, 20s and the teens, even the late 90s, I'd say by 1918, maybe 1920, Crowley was very, very popular, and he was a pop culture hero to the elite, right? So the people who founded Bennington College and financed it, they were, I won't say they were adherents of Crowley, but they knew they knew about Theosophy, they knew about Madame Blavatsky. Occultism in American society, especially in elite society, has been an animating force even during the colonial period. And this is why I call that particular YouTube section Collegiate Gothic, because I'm going to do a whole series that shows the occultic origins of the university system, not just in America, but going back to old Europe, as Donald Rumsfeld called it, right? So that's Bennington College. So I thought she came out of that and brought her with that back. By the way, I got a really good comment. This is the type of comment I like. But someone mentioned that Martha Graham, coming up from New York, established a dance program there. And if you know anything about her, it's very much paganistic type of dancing. I mean, if you ever been in high school and had the modern dance class, all the bohemian type girls were in it, and they did all this crazy freestyle dancing, expressive dancing. I enjoyed it. But Martha Graham's a heavyweight there, and I think she was probably influenced by Isadora Duncan, who was an American. Or so was Martha Graham, but before her came this woman, Isadora Duncan. There was a movie about her that came out, I think, in early 70s or something. I think it was called Isadora. I wonder who that's. I think it was Faye Dunaway was a star. I might be wrong on that. But anyway, Isadora Duncan, who probably influenced Martha Graham, was an occultist herself. Like I told you, the cultural, the political, the financial elite were all into these pagan, inflected, non-Christian, even anti-Christian religions from the jump. Okay? And it's probably true for the Rockefellers and all the other people who are still very much in control and charge of our lives. That's why these cultural forensics investigations are so important to breaking down this system so that we can build the republic back up to our specifications, right? Which is predicated upon humanity, not post-humanity. So this is what happened. She supposedly tweeted out there, and by the way, I don't think she should have been fired. If she wants to tweet anything negative about quote unquote my people, knock yourself out, girlfriend. I really don't care. I don't care that your daddy's white either. I don't care your mama's black. I do care that you are a power hungry servitor of empire, and by and by you gonna be rolled up too. All right, you dig? You gonna be rolled up. And all you South Asian people here who came from your communist I guess it would be, British imperial socialism, right? That's why I'm getting ahead of myself. That's why you see a lot of South Asians who are now being put forward in front of the white girls that used to be up there. They're putting the brown people up and the black girl and the yellow girls right up there. That's why you're seeing a lot of South Asians, because they come from the British Empire and their ancestors, and probably their own parents, people like Kamala Harris, right, who's supposedly black, right, but her mother's Indian, she's South Asian. They come out of this this very strong British socialist tradition, and the reason why it took root in India is because the British socialists, people like your Virginia Woolf and Leonard Woolf, they were anti-colonial. They were on the side, and George Orwell. In fact, he comes from one of those families, these administrator families during the British Raj time. But the ones you're seeing today who show up in these magazines like Teen Vogue, or showing up in the Biden camp or the Barama camp or the Hillary Clinton camp, you're not going to see them in the Trump or any other. I'm sorry, there's one guy that showed up with Trump. His name's Kash Patel, but I think he was a sleeper agent, right? They call him Kash Patel, but I think his name is Kash Kun or something like that. And I don't know if he's related to the Patel Motel cartel or not. But the point is that most of them are on the left liberal side, and I'll get to them because that's who they replaced. Alexi McCammond, who's perpetrating as if she is a black woman. She got a 4-year free ride to the University of Chi-Town, University of Chicago, even though her family's probably richer than all belief, at least from my perspective. She got a 4-year ride because she was being groomed to occupy this particular niche within the cultural, institutional propaganda system, starting with teeny bopper Vogue, right? So she was fired. This is the Condé Nast network, which if I have time, I'll get into it. Suffice to say, Condé Nast is a larger umbrella of all these different magazines, which are spouting the same anti-American, anti-Americana, supposedly anti-racist, supposedly and I say supposedly because they are racist, they are sexist, and they're everything that they say they're against. It's all Condé Nast. And as you've heard before, I went in on Anna Chile Wintour, right? She's known as, this is not me, she's known as Nuclear Wintour. It's spelled Wintour. But she's the head of the, and she's British. She has an American mother, but she's British. U.S. is in a process of being recalled. It has been for decades, but the end game's coming, courtesy of our British masters, right? British, and by British I also include, now we'll talk about this on the Thursday Trio, hopefully tonight. This is a topic I want to broach. I want to talk about the Dutch masters, and I don't mean the cigar brand. Right, because the House of Orange, Clockwork Orange, Nassau, and the current inhabitants, occupiers of the throne, are, their blood, right? This is the bloodlines. So she was thrown out. Alexi McCammond, good luck to you. May you prosper. Let's see. Let me look at her bona fides here. Guildford High School in Rockford, Illinois. That's a suburb. It's probably a quote unquote white, upper middle class suburb. I'm sure her family, her father and mother are professionals. Guildford High School. I don't know what that is. It's probably a Jesuit high school if I had to guess. I just found out about her. So you dig into it if you're interested. But I'm just using my own informed judgment. These all fit a pattern, right? No, she didn't go to Bennington, but she went to University of Chicago, which is maybe even worse because, it has a law school, medical school, it has all the professional schools, where your women's colleges are mostly a liberal arts curriculum that set you up for grad school. It's the scholarship's called Quest Bridge, one word, 4 years. So check that one out. The scholarship organization. She graduated 2015. She's not doing bad for someone just right out of college, and she, unlike most of her cohort, she's not going to come out with $400,000 worth of debt, right? That's why you get the free. It's like a thank you in advance, Miss McCammond, right? And then she's going to make some on the back end, hopefully, and then she's rolled up early, like Anthony Bourdain and Chester Bennington and Chris is it Chris Cornell? By the way, I'm going to be doing a talk on these guys later on, Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington, and the people who come out of the Seattle Boeing NATO / Pentagon Caliphate, right? So look forward to that, doing that with you. And if you know about Soundgarden and Audio Slave and all that, I invite you to. I might bring you in as a guest if you really liked that whole scene out. It passed me over, so I'm now getting into it. I'm really enjoying the music, by the way, and I'm beginning to see how it fits in perfectly with what we're seeing today in 2021. So she also McCammond received training from the National Association of Black Journalists. And you can imagine what their politics are. I'm sure they love Barama and they love Joe Biden and they love oppression and they love keeping working class Black people on the plantation. See, it's a caste system, right? It's a caste system. And they got a bunch of rich Asians riding herd on the poor Asians like me. Right. These are usually South Asians these days, by the way. Their Indians are they're like Imran Iwan types, right? So you don't have to feel sorry for them because they're not white. They're not nice people. Okay. I mean, I'm talking about the elites, the ones you see, in the streets and running their business. They're cool. They're like everybody else. They're trying to get over, right? I'm talking about the ones who are the upper caste. CASTE system. Yeah, they want to abolish the class system like Mao Zedong and Karl Marx and Lenin and every other, Fidel Castro. They want to abolish class, but they don't want to abolish the caste system like Kamala Harris. She will remain on the top caste. And me, I'm just dirt, which is fine with me. I want to remain close to the earth. And it says, this is her Wikipedia, right? She's a mixed race descent. Whoop-de-doo. Congratulations. I think most people on Earth by now are mixed race descent, except for the ones who are the type O negatives. They're very interesting because they can't, have progeny outside of certain blood groups, but that's another talk. And I'll let you read, all that. She got into it with Charles Barkley. He's the black man, the angry black conservative man that all the supposed progressive black people like to hate. Number one, he said, "Hey, I'm a rich man. I'm a rich black man. I make no bones about it. And I'm married to a white woman." I mean, and he's very vocal about it, but of course, they consider him to be a race traitor, and he's racist and sexist and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on McCammond. I'll be checking her out as she goes from one liberal think tank to another. Oh, by the way, she's on MSNBC. She's going to be hanging with Killer Joe Scarborough and Mika Zbigniew Brzezinski's daughter, and MSNBC stands for Microsoft NBC. So she's not going to hurt. There's still a position for her. And this might have been a complete, theatrical extravaganza so that they can put in the real people that they want, which I'll get to in a moment. She was replaced, as a matter of fact, very quickly by one of the staffers who were there. Her name was Varsha Sharma, and there's your South Asian connection. Now, there's very little information on Varsha Sharma. It's not because she is an immigrant. I mean, I think she might have been born in India, but she's pretty much raised and socialized. I think she was educated here. There's a little bit of information, but there's some opportunities for you to dig in on her. I can't find out where she graduated, but I'm sure it's a private institution, if not one of these women's college. But again, here's the South Asian part. Here's your Imran Awan. She happens to be Indian, but Pakistani, Sri Lankans. These are also people who have made big headway in business, especially in Wall Street as quants, to help bust out the investor class who aren't in on the inside deals. All right, and I wrote the book on it. It's called Servitors of Empire. Right. So what I didn't, because I figured they put either a black woman or a South Asian woman there, maybe even an East Asian type. The East Asians, they tend to use them for medical propaganda, right? Because, all your pharmacists, if you look behind the counter, they're all like Asian women, right? In these pharmaceutical coats. But no, they put a South Asian. But what I found is that the executive editor, she's kind of a mystery woman. I mean, I understand where she's coming from and what she is and what she represents, but I don't have much of a story on her. And her name is Sanhita Mukhopadhyay. I'm mispronouncing her name, but she's another South Asian. She's not the editor of Teen Vogue. She's the executive editor of Teen Vogue. However, she did resign in the wake of this controversy over the firing of McCammond. And again, she's going to go to one of these corporate funded social justice type organizations or journalistic sites, which are funded by the central bankers, City of London, Wall Street, under the guise of social justice, right? So that's Hamita Mukhopadhyay. And she is an avowed and proud lesbian. She's into fat consciousness. She wants to have fat models. And she says, oh yeah, I'm in Teen Vogue and I'm writing for all these glamour type magazines, but I want you to put thick women on there as part of the editorial revolution, right? And you might think, okay, who is this Samhita? She's probably a think tank product. Maybe so. We'll find out. But you will know Sumhita. I'll just use her first name so I don't have to keep repeating it. Maybe I bet she goes by Sam, for short, right? But it's Sumhita. But Sumhita, you might know her through a performance by none other than Ashley Judd at the Women's March, Washington, D.C., 2017. This is shortly after Orange Man got elected to the presidency. Man, did they get their knickers in a twist. Ashley Judd. Remember when she did that little performance piece? So I'm going to do a performance piece of her performance piece, not all of it. And it's the I'm a nasty woman performance. And she said, my name is Ashley Judd, and I'm a feminist. And I want to say hello to Independence Avenue in the back, all the way down to 17th Street. And I bring you the words of Nina Donovan, a 19-year-old in Middle Tennessee. She has given me the privilege of telling you what she has to say. And then she goes on from there, right? Ashley Judd from the great Judd family. I mean, I liked the Judds. I liked Naomi and the pretty one too. I forgot her name, the mother that looked like the daughter. You know, that one. I thought I was always kind of curious. They were a great duo. And they came up the hard way. Ashley Judd, you know, oh man, save your money, because there's not going to be a lot of work for you very soon. The roles are probably all dried up, so now you have to be a SJW to extend your career a little bit longer. I'm sorry, that's a terribly sexist comment on my part. Screw you though. I mean, I don't care. Yeah, I'm a nasty woman. I'm as nasty as a man who looks like he bathes in Cheetos dust. A man whose words are a diss track to America. I guess the man who bathes in Cheeto dust, I guess that's Orange Man, right? Electoral college sanctioned hate speech contaminating this national anthem. I'm not as nasty as a Confederate flag being tattooed across my city. Maybe the South actually is going to rise again. Maybe for some it never really fell. Blacks are still in shackles and graves. Not McCammond, unfortunately. I mean, I'm sorry, not Ms. McCormick. She's not in shackles in a grave. It's just for being black, right? You know, okay. We know about the black victimage deal, and we know about the black bourgeoisie, who a black sociologist by the name of E. Franklin Fraser, he went in on them back in 1959. He called these people out, you know, back in the 50s. So I got your number. E. Franklin Fraser got your number, called Black Bourgeoisie. And that's who's running game on the American people and on the world. It's not about James Brown. It's not about Aretha Franklin. It's not about Kirk Franklin. It's not about Kanye West. It's not about John Legend. It's not about the football dude with the afro who's all, you know, what's his name? I can't remember. Not about those people. It's about the black bourgeoisie, who've been around, by the way, since colonial periods. They were slave owners themselves. Can you dig it? Yeah, history is much more. It's not about, Isaac Hayes, right? Can you dig it? That famous cover of him, he's got the shaved head and the aviator dark glasses. He's in chains, man. He's in chains. Or Aretha Franklin, Chain of Fools, chain, fool. By the way, that was written by a bunch of white boys down in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, because you know what? Historically, black people and white people, I'm talking about working class, they live together. They were together. The black bourgeoisie, you was living on the hill. You were living up, up in Harlem, uptown, right? And now you're still in charge, and we're calling you out. You're in the University of Chicago. I mean, the Rockefeller people founded your supposedly historically black colleges. Spelman College, Spelman was a Rockefeller, that woman, that Biddy Spelman, Laura Spelman, she's a Rockefeller, because she said, we're going to control these people. We're going to have like a stratum of black bourgeoisie, and they're going to take us right into the 21st century, and we're going to bring creatures like Ms. McCormick up there to get over on the minority teenagers in the guise of teen Vogue. See, I got it all scoped out, because I'm ghetto. I'm ghetto to the core. Not unlike the black bourgeoisie, I grew up in the black community because I'm a colored person too, man. And I grew up in the age of American apartheid, called racial segregation, because I'm an Oriental boy. Unlike these South Asians who go right to the top, right? Because they're the elites, or these Singaporeans, right? You saw the movie Crazy Rich Asians. I hate those people. They're ruining the world. Okay, so there you go. And of course, those are the people who are being promoted and publishing and in the movies and all that, especially if it's a gay thing too, right? So there you go. You got to castrate the black men, and you got to castrate the Oriental man. You got to castrate the white man. You got to castrate everybody, and you're going to do it through Teen Scream magazine. Okay. Enough for that particularly rant. Okay, so that's Ashley Judd, right? I'm a nasty woman. So where did she get that? She got it from an anthology done by the executive editor of Teen Vogue, the woman who I just mentioned. Her name is Samita Mukhabahate, right? She's a thick, XXXL lesbian. That's how she describes herself, because not me, right? It's not on me. It's on her. That's how she presents herself to the world, right? And you're supposed to love it. You're supposed to dig it. But she adopted 2 chillins, right? I wonder what race and ethnicity they are. Maybe they are, like Sony, the robot, what is it called? Asimo, the robot, because that's where we're heading. But she has 2 chillins, so I guess we're supposed to like her, because she doesn't need a man. And she's written for Ms. Magazine. That's Gloria Steinem's organization, which again was funded by these corporate banker type people. So she put together an anthology. I looked it up on Amazon. I'm not gonna buy it, not unless maybe I will. There's 94 used copies that start at 92 cents. So maybe I will buy it, but I'm not going to buy it at the full retail price of $11.82. But if it's 92 cents, if under $1, I think I'm going to go for it. I want to read it. Okay, published in 2017, and the title of the anthology is, guess what? Nasty Woman. Well, she only uses the word once. Nasty Women. And there's a little artwork of the Illuminati Statue of Liberty, which is a transvestite, appropriately enough, supposedly, given to us by the revolutionary government of France, so that the Illuminati Freemasonic project could continue transatlantically, right, all wed together. That's what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen, here. And it's got a little banner across, like Miss America. It's a parody of Miss America, right? And the banner reads, Nasty Women's. Well, it says women, but I come from the ghetto, remember? So I say women's. Okay, let me talk a little bit about let's see here, about Anna Wintour, because she's the head of Condé Nast. She still is. And as you know, I've mentioned her many times, and I think I've given a separate talk on her. She was the subject of The Devil Wears Prada. And it was a great role done by Meryl Streep. I recommend it if you like comedies, or if you don't. Yeah, and it was based on a novel written by her former assistant, by the way. Also very good, right? Recommend it. But who is Anna Wintour? Just to remind you, well, she is the loyal, obedient daughter of one Charles Wintour, and he was known as Chili Charlie because he had a personality like an ice cube. And Anna Wintour, by the way, is also seen as a very cold ice princess with her little oversized dark glasses and her Dutch boy, page boy, Bob, right? And, I think she has like one cherry tomato for lunch every day with a dollop of tuna, tuna salad. So she can stay fashionably thin, other than, against the editorial policy of Teen Vogue, which is to make them large these days. We want them that way. So her father was Charles Wintour, who was in publishing. He was the right-hand man to the Canadian-born British publishing magnate. He's known, he became, nobility. He's known as Lord Beaverbrook, better known as William Maxwell Aitken, Canadian born. And this is why I keep saying, and it's becoming clearer now that we're seeing the British Commonwealth of Canada, they're in total lockdown, and they're up there, right above us, because a lot of Americans view Canadians as our best buddies, right? They have such a wonderful, peaceful, friendly society. You're seeing the true nature of imperial power that's going on right now. And Lord Beaverbrook and the British Empire and the publishing entities came together in order to create this massive, at one time he was the most powerful publisher in the world, Lord Beaverbrook, and it's conservative. And to say conservative probably understates it. His politics were fascist. Let's put it that way. I'm not saying he was a full-blown backer of Hirohito and Mussolini and Hitler, but his version of fascism in the British homeland was not a pretty picture either. And you can see how this fits in with the current necropolitical objectives of the Condé Nast publishing network and its various magazines, like Teen Vogue, like Vanity Fair, right? Very important magazine in U.S. and, well, the English-speaking world, primarily U.S. and Britain. I'll also tell you one of the reasons why. Oh, you might already know this, but for those of you who don't, be prepared to be shocked. But Teen Vogue dispenses sex advice, sex practices advice to its readers. So one of its more infamous articles was about anal sex, right? And I don't know what the demographic is, but I did read comments by parents who wrote in and were just completely offended by, to put it lightly. They were outraged that this publication would be running articles about anal sex for teenagers, right? If that's your predilection, yeah, that's fine, But for a magazine of this level, I mean, that crosses. I would agree that crosses the line there. And I'm pretty much a social and a cultural liberal as far as that's concerned. Whatever you do that doesn't hurt anybody else, and you're an adult, don't bother me with your problems. Do it, but don't tell me about it. I don't want to read about it, and I don't want to hear about it, and I don't want you to go on Oprah bragging about it, or Jerry Springer. But the reason why I think that this type of editorial content has been making it into Teen Vogue is that Anna Wintour herself has a background in porno. Yes, the circumspect, well-bred daughter of a British publishing executive, right, who, even when she was a child, was used to being around polite society. She even had a little room attached to the family home, but she had a little room with her own little separate entrance. And as a teenager, her parents allowed her to entertain men. I wonder what that was about. I wonder if there are any cameras about either. Well, maybe so. Who knows? But the reason why she's at the top of the Condé Nast food chain, so she has to take responsibility. The reason why Anna Wintour is probably following the dictates of her handlers, the bankers, are running articles like this in Teen Vogue, is that her background here, in reading her biography, is that she worked for Bob Guccione. Does that ring a bell? He was the publisher of Penthouse, which was set up as the rival of Playboy magazine. They always like to pick these fake rivals, Pepsi versus Coke and all that. They all try to double some. Then you got your Larry Flint Hustler magazine thrown in there. But Bob Guccione was Penthouse, and he had a magazine supposedly for women, and it was called Viva. And guess who the editor of Viva was? Yes, Anna Nuclear Wintour, who now runs Vogue and is the head of the Condé Nast publication wing, was the editor, or worked. I don't know if she was the editor-in-chief, but she worked for Viva. It went out of business. I mean, Bob Guccione was rolled up, or I don't know what happened to him exactly, but she got her bones there. That's she got into the background of publishing through Viva magazine, and then went legitimate and mainstream. So what's the solution here? Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to let your daughters or your nieces or people, girls of that age group, you don't have to let them read that magazine. You can, because they're not adults. You don't, parents still have parental control. I know that they're trying to break that down. That's probably part of one of the main points of teen Vogue, is to break the legal as well as the emotional and familial bond between the generations, right? But you can exercise your parental rights, duties, and responsibilities by forbidding, and it's not censorship, because the magazine itself, knock yourself out. I'm not saying it should be on, but I don't have to recommend it to a granddaughter or nieces or people, and I certainly would not myself countenance the reading of this publication so long as I'm around. And I know that tempts a lot of young people, and whatever is banned. So I'd go lightly on it. But I explained to them that these people are child molesters in a genteel form. They have elite education from the University of Chicago. But you know what? We know a lot of people from elite backgrounds who are totally bent, to use the British expression, that are completely bent where it comes to their sexuality, right? Where did most of these scandals come from? Penn State, places like that. And I had the interview with the great author, Jeremy Kuzmarov, and we even talked about Barack Obama, who has that Chi-Town connection, right, in his sexual predilections, which Kuzmarov, who is a leftist, he accepts this reportage that he had the tenacity and the honesty to look at, even though it was unflattering to ostensibly someone who is a fellow leftist. But you know what? These are not leftists. These are not progressives. These people are not interested in any form of human liberation. All they're interested in is putting us into the post-human prison house, right? You know that. I know that. But let's spread the word. Ladies and gentlemen, TiVo, P. Diddy, Horse Sense 222, Act Truth, Mom with Bulldogs, Corky, ECAT, thank you very much. ECAT says she was guessing that the editor was Satan. Well, she might be under orders from the that guy with the horns and the tail, right? The Red Devil. But thank you very much. I want you to spread the word. That's how we're going to win this. We go in on it on a cultural level as well as through the machines, through the IP addresses, through the Blackberries, but we also do our cultural forensics to undermine the legitimacy that these people have claimed for themselves. They're illegitimate. And as I like to say in Latin, illegitimi non coverandum, which means don't let the bastards grind you down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in an hour at the great Thursday Trio. I'm just one element in that of the trio. It's my favorite show. We'll see you then. Hopefully you can join us. Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you.